is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Burndown YouTube channel. Finished out working, so you know what time it is. It's time to get on my own junk and crud, try to get these things running, because we got to take them all the way to Vegas for LS Fest West. It's about a 300-mile trip. If you've been following along, you saw the last video where we put in a transmission cooler. I know, another one. Another one. It's like DJ Khaled. Transmission cooler. Another one. So we put another one in the Bago, and this time it's up front because we have the big boy fans. So pretty much welcome to the transmission cooler and fan channel. I will be your host, Dane Thompson. Anyways, the transmission cooler's up front, and I picked up some aluminum line, and I have a few fittings so we can plumb this thing in. And if you're wondering, I kind of hear it sometimes here and there from people like, oh Dane, why do you run aluminum? It's so expensive. The hard line, 20 feet, $14. So if you can go find some line that will hold the PSI, you can get 20 feet of it for $14 and it's not complete garbage. You let me know in the comment section. Yes, I do have to use nuts and collars, and then you need the tools to make this. But once you get established, you start making stuff. The only reason I bought some nuts and collars and stuff is because I want to test. But if I was adamant about just taking those coolers out, I'd have all the parts I would need besides this to get it done. You know, like I said, and then this is overkill. I don't need 20 feet of it, but I figured since I'm there and gas the way it is, I don't want to make multiple trips. So literally pennies on the dollar really for something that's going to be pretty well permanent until you want to change it up. So we got this. Let me show you real quick in case you missed the video. We put this dog in. Open sesame. So we got this guy in. We got some decent spacing. I still haven't decided. I mean, this thing really shouldn't, like, it wiggles a little, but I mean, we'll have to start the motor and see how much it wiggles. But the force of the air going through it too, I don't know if it's going to push on it real hard or whatever, but we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe we'll find something to put in between so like these don't get into the fins. But ultimately the fittings are on the bottom, and then the transmission cooler lines are on this side, so we got to route it down around through the frame past all the exhaust, because I got all my exhaust going for the turbos. So it'll be a little bit of work. They're not very long lines, so the bands and stuff aren't too intricate. It should be pretty basic, but I don't want to work in the dirt, so this thing's in the dirt. This guy's in my way. I came out to a little bit of an oh no moment. I saw this, there's a pretty good puddle there, but that's coming from the transmission cooler lines that are not hooked up, because I just looped it to try to start this guy. So that's, luckily, that's residual leaking out of there, because I saw that and I was like, man. And then I looked and I'm like, yeah, I think we're good. I still think we're good. But I think what we got to do is we got to check fluid levels in this, because I want to see if we can move this over. So we got to move the Bago, move the boom, and then we'll put the Bago in the driveway. And I won't bore you guys with that. I'll let you know if the car moves or not, because you'll know if the Bago's in its position. A little movie magic. And then we'll crawl underneath and I'll show you the lines, and hopefully we can get started and get this thing knocked out, because I want to test this before we pull the other cooler out. And I need the cooler out of this to put in the boom. And you know, slippery slope, man. It is a slippery slope. Bam, like movie magic. So yeah, here's my puddle. I'm gonna wipe this up a little bit better, because this is pretty much area I got to crawl around in under the Bago. But I didn't have to push it, so that's a good sign. It went in gears. Apparently overfilled the transmission. But anyway, enough about this turd. We will get to it. This is waiting patiently from some donor parts from that. So without further ado, let me move this thing over. We'll wipe this up a little bit better. We'll crawl underneath. I'll show you guys what we're up against. Got my Delfi on, ready to rock and roll. So let's get underneath. I'll give you guys a look at what the transmission lines. Oh no, I got a shimmy under here. Should have thought this through better. All right, so there they are. One here, one there. Ooh, a little warm. So we got to come from the front over there, and then we got to come inside this frame rail up here, and then poop, pop out here. So these are the existing lines. So we'll have to figure out what to do with these guys. Probably just turn them up, so hopefully they don't drip everywhere. But I'm gonna get a rough measurement, so I don't have to feed like all the line through. So we'll get a rough measurement from up front. We'll go a little past here so I have some room to work, and that's it. We'll stuff them through, and bada boom bada bing. I think I might too, maybe I'll flare this side and then push it through. That way this thing's already done, because these bends, I mean, I could just pretty much do it by hand. You know, I don't have to get all fancy, and then I don't want to have to flare it. So we'll get a rough measurement, I'll leave it long, we'll flare this end, and then we should be long over there. And then I think I have more room, hopefully, to work and flare stuff. So that's it, let's get to it. Got the end cut square. The most important part of hard lining anything, putting the fitting on before you flare stuff. I've never, ever, ever flared anything without putting the fitting on first. Ever. I'm just saying, yeah. So we got one done. This is the longer one, and I way overshot at my measurement, but nothing's touching or rubbing. It's all tight. So now we just got to do this one, which is the shorter one. This goes from here to the side on the transmission that's a bit closer. So we will do the same thing. I'll get the measurement. We will plumb it in. Then we'll take the doghouse off. We'll fire it up, look for leaks, and then I'll have to check the transmission fluid level, because obviously it's got to fill this big dog up. So we don't want to run the transmission around with it low. So let me wrap this up. We'll bring you back when we're checking fluids and looking for 0 leaks. 0 leaks, guys, right? All right, here's a look at the lines. So there we got that guy there, that guy there. They come together and they go back and they cruise all the way down, whoop, and they pop into the transmission. I will button these down better, but for now, for testing purposes, we're just gonna fire it up, check fluid level, and then we will see how this thing cools. And if I was gonna tell you guys the truth, I would tell you that I actually cut this one too short and I had to make another line. But I'm gonna lie and say that we did it all in one shot, and it was easy peasy, lemon squeezy, just like my boy would say. So let's take the doghouse off, we'll fire it up, check for leaks, get the fluid level right, and then let it idle and idle and idle till it comes up to temp. Maybe we'll take it around the block, because otherwise it'll take forever. But I want to see if we can knock the heat out of it with this cooler. Alright, we let it get up to temp. We're gonna mob around real slow. My line temp is 124, pan temp is in the dirt, but at least it was a good start. And typically you don't feel a lot of heat. It heat soaks is what a transmission normally does. Until it gets up to temp though, they stay pretty cool. And then with that restriction from the radiator, the fans are working harder. And then I think obviously that trans cooler is warmer in front of the radiator too. So we up the duty cycle on these things so they kind of zing real hard and then they kick the crap out of it. So we're trying to keep it around like a 195. So line temp is 124, 125. And then you can see my fan duty cycle is cruising. So let me cruise around a little bit. We'll just kind of see how she does, but I'm just gonna go slow, stop and go, unlocked, and we'll try to heat things up. All right, I'm gonna jump on the freeway. That'll give it a chance to stretch its legs. It's a kind of uphill. We can give it some throttle input. We'll try to keep it unlocked, and then we'll jump back off and cruise back home, cruise down. So it's 132 now. So let's see if we can get this thing, get some heat in it. Yeah, the fan seems to be working harder. I mean, it's able to, those fans are able to keep up, so they keep bouncing up and then down. So it's keeping the temperature where I'm commanding, so we'll see. .133 line temp, then 134, there we go. It's starting to climb a little bit. And I got my laptop, so if it starts getting high, I can just turn the fans on, so that way we can cool it off, so I don't get stranded. Give her some throttle input. Let's heat her up, boys. pig, and then I'll bring you guys back when we're rolling back through town slow again. Whoa, doggy. Well, that didn't do any good because the line temp went down because it was locked up. So we got down like 131. So let's cruise around again and put some heat to her. Good for cruising, but seems like it's working all right. All right, so far I'm pretty impressed. I've been lugging it around for a little while. We're at 145, and then I got the fans kind of zinging. It's keeping it about 195, 196. So let me turn the fans down a little bit, see if we can get a little more heat in it, but not have the fans work so hard. So we'll pull over and try that, and then we'll cruise around a little bit more. We are finally back. I mobbed around a bit. I set the fans aggressive where I think they'll be fine to run. Today's pretty cool, so I have them set pretty aggressive, a pretty aggressive ramp in. So we're trying to just keep it kind of under 200 for the most part. And then the highest we've gotten is 155, 156, and that's after mobbing around super slow and then sitting here idling and then having the fans I kick off and on. So yeah, and then the pan temp, I mean, same thing. It's pretty reminiscent, about a little over 160. So that is nothing, that is perfect. And that single radiator or transcooler up front in front of my radiator with all the other heat is doing a better job than the two that were underneath this thing. So that kind of leads me to believe my theory that that design with the thin fins where it looks like a standard radiator is much better than that big solid steel mesh looking thing that we have underneath this. Granted, I'm still going to pull the 11 by 11 out. We're going to throw that under the boom because the one that was on there seemed to work decent, and we'll just roll with it. So I'm gonna let this thing idle a bit more, but I'm calling this a win. The fan is keeping everything in check. That cooler works phenomenal. I don't see any leaks. So now we can get down to business on the boom. We'll put a transcooler in that thing, get that thing running, get some street miles on it, hopefully change some gears out, and start having some fun. You guys know what to do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following along. Like, subscribe, share. Until next time, I'm out.